Communications. We're in a highway of communications, right? Well, my interview today is a really empowering woman. In fact, I had to do it in two parts. In the celebration of the Women's International Month, this woman stands absolutely at the top. She helps and teaches and coaches people on how to communicate in their relationships and even with God. She is the most powerful communicator I've ever met. She's counseled not only my own family, but myself personally. She is an amazing woman. She's going to share some incredible points of reference for you to use in your life application. And believe me, this is going to truly be a capstone to be able to bring better relationships into your life. I promise you, you won't want to miss a minute of it. You'll probably want to play it over and over again, but it's in two parts. And the reason why, because the first part was so good, I said I just have to have a second part to be able to give to my audience. So listen in now with Carolyn Santos's wonderful interview that represents more than just talking about things. She's teaching and sharing, and you want to write down the captured nuggets of information that will help you truly learn how to communicate in a way that will make your life even more beautiful. Enjoy our interview with Carolyn Santos. We're excited to be sharing with Carolyn Santos, a friend of mine, but also a communication coach, a powerful coach that has absolutely been able to talk with CEOs and change their lives all over the international world of business. She's been able to go into families and help families change what would look as ruins into beautiful, beautiful structures of families that speak and share healthy communication, and into businesses where they can truly begin to speak from the owners and employers to the employees and really have a communication with their customers. And I want to introduce you to a communication coach excellent, that is Carolyn Santos. Carolyn, welcome to our program.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. Tell us what a communication coach is. I mean, we all think about communication all the time. We communicate all the time, but we don't communicate. You've taught me that. I'm not going to tell everybody quite how I've gotten to know you till later. But the reality is that communication, healthy, is incredible. Unhealthy is awful. Tell us about a communication coach and really what your background and what you do to help people.
Over 35 years, I have been working with people and most importantly, trying to understand myself and other people. So sometimes people say that when you have a problem, when you solve your problem, then you have a message for other people. So communication has always been something dear to my heart. And it's beyond just the words of, do you hear what I'm saying? Because we can talk all day long, but until we speak and hear through the other person's ears in a very specific strategic way, unlike kind of traditional communication training, it's still lacking at best. So about 20 years ago, I was looking for an instrument to use because people love things that validate their lives. And I had used numerous instruments, and I could list them and you'd probably know what they are, but none of them really hit the spot. And then I was required to go to a leadership conference back in February of 2000. And in this seminar, they were presenting the Kendall Life Languages Profile. And halfway through the morning, I nudged my husband and I said, this is what I have been looking for. So it is an instrument that helps people measure communication, the communication they have with themselves and the communication they have with other people. It's pretty laser focused what I do. There's no guesswork to it.
Communication is in every area of our life. We deal with people from workers, husbands, wives, kids, strangers, people that we meet on the street. Communication is very complicated. There's so many different people. There's just so many different, issues and nationalities and backgrounds. Is it really able to have someone learn how to understand all those languages, all those particular areas? Give us an understanding of how many billions of people in the world right now? We're talking about a lot.
Yes.
How do we communicate with all them?
Right, I know. And what you said is very, very important. You said there are billions of people on the planet. They say about 7 billion right now. So what I want to encourage your viewers and your listeners to know is that really we can distill the entire globe down from 7 billion people to communicate with potentially to only 7, because there are 7 communication styles that are universal. And once we become acquainted with those languages, if you will, we can go from person to person, job to job, or even country to country, and be confident that we can listen for what language is being spoken, what communication style is being spoken, and know confidently how to speak that back.
For the listening audience, let me share something with you. The way that Carolyn and I came together was a very unique process. I'm a communicator, a blogger, a TV personality, radio personality, all the things that I've communicated over my career, as well as a private practice. I have employees, I have audiences, I have all kinds of different areas to communicate, including a wonderful wife and children and grandchildren now. And I went to a party at my cousin's house and she said, hey, I've got somebody there to teach communication. She's going to show us a little bit about what communication is all about. And I got to be honest with you. I said, well, I wonder what she's going to teach, because, I've gone through so many seminars and so many courses and so many books. And then we sat for 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, and you mesmerized me. And as you know, you were then taken into my heart as a wonderful person of a coach level personally. I took that survey, found out a whole lot more about myself after all the surveys I've taken as psychologists and all the things that I've had in the process of just learning ourselves. I think that's the most important part. But here's what I started to see, and I want the audience to know this. I first took it to myself and I saw it really reveal something to help me communicate with myself and know myself better, then to others. Then I brought my wife and I into a program of coaching. I then brought my whole family. I brought them all in for a complete workshop and all the surveys of 3 sons, a daughter-in-law. It was an amazing balancing act that you put together, Carolyn. Then you came into my corporation. You came into my entire team of artists and stylists and all the people that take care of the hair replacement clients that we take care of. And it changed each one of those different worlds that I live in, because it wasn't so complicated. I first knew me. I knew how I was built, how my DNA was there. Tell the audience that in those 3 or 4 arenas, that 7 languages, just give us a little bit of understanding about how is it possible in all these different arenas that you can speak a language or understand somebody else speaking their language.
You would think that would be hard to do, but let me start by saying, do you have a smartphone, Jeffrey?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a computer?
Yes.
And with all of those appliances and gadgets, you got a manual, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing is, the most important parts of our lives, our wife, our husband, our partner, our children, our employees, our employers, they come into our lives with nothing, no manual, no introduction, and then it's up to us to try to figure out who this person is and how can I connect with them. So to answer your question in the short story is that when a person takes an assessment, it's like giving us a manual to their heart, to their mind, to their actions, because all of us are wired very specifically, and we're wired in 3 different categories. We're wired to communicate kinetically, emotively, and cognitively, and we all do all of those things. And within those categories lie the 7 life languages, the 7 communication styles. I like to call it communication intelligence, so that we can intelligently communicate with people. And to a little bit more in depth, that the manual, so to speak, is number 1, being self-aware. When I know my communication styles and I know where I'm starting, the place from where I'm starting, and then I know just a few facts about the 7 communication styles, I can watch for behaviors and I can listen for verbal cues. And that is the way that you can hear what communication style is that person speaking in the moment, and then I know exactly then what question they're asking me, what need they have from me, the passion that drives their life, and the character quality that I can encourage them in. And it really is that that simple.
Your skill set of coaching helps us have not only an understanding of our own language, but also a translator within us to translate other people's communication skills.
I love your creativity, Jeffrey. Yes, that's it. I'm gonna use that.
Please do, please do. You know, as much as I've studied with you and as much as I've been involved with you, it really kind of gave another ha-ha moment, you know, because what you just said is it's not about trying to figure out the other person, but to know what language or where they're coming from. You know, Steve Covey says something that I know you know so well in his 7 Habits of his book, you know, for the habits of successful living people. He talks about the relationship of seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most battles in marriage or employees or kids, it's always, I want you to understand what I'm saying to you. You know what I mean? I want you to understand. If you're Italian, it really becomes, I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And what you said is powerful. It is the foundation. There are 2 foundations to learning this program, and that is number 1, self-awareness of your communication styles. So that's understanding. Mm-hmm. It's understanding me and then understanding you. The second foundation is character. Mm-hmm. So it's twofold. It's excellence in communication by knowing me, and then character so that I can become the person of excellence that I want to be. And interesting you talked about Stephen Covey, because the founder of the program that I am certified with, I'm a senior certified trainer internationally. He was sitting in a workshop with Stephen Covey, and being one of the communication styles that tends to be a little distracted and easily bored, all of a sudden his ears perked up and said, he's talking about the communication styles. And he started listening and then realized that the 7 communication styles and the 7 habits of highly effective people naturally fit together. Mm-hmm. So the one that you said, seek first to understand, then to be understood, mm-hmm. that corresponds to one of the communication styles, which is the very heart of connecting with people in meeting their needs altruistically. I get started and I don't know where to stop, Jeffrey. It's just so
that's quite right. In fact, I'm going to let my audience know that I've already decided in the 2 minutes of the program, we're going to do two parts of this interview because it's so good. I don't want to lose any of what you have to offer our viewing audience. You know, there's moms, there's kids, there's professionals. I want them to capture all of it, and it's a lot to do. So we're going to break this into 2 parts. Let's go into some real life examples. Let's take husbands and wives, because you're also a marriage coach. You teach them how to communicate. You do retreats that we'll put everybody in connection with on the bottom of our page. We'll get them connected to your webpage, as well as how to take one of those surveys that you talked about that's so important. But in turn, let's go to a husband and wife relationship. Conflict. Again, I'm Italian. There's conflict because we are seasoned people, and it's not just by the season of what we eat. So, you know, you got this kind of energy and chemistry and DNA going on. What do you do for a family like that, a husband and wife that are really having a challenge to communicate, or as Steve says, not understanding?
I have permission from one couple that I recently met with to use their story, and their names are Pat and Melissa. They were married for 12 years. They are married 12 years, really love each other, but they also were ready to kill each other because they just are not able to connect, especially where the rubber meets the road in life's conflicts. And they went to a marriage workshop that I did, and then decided to consult with me on their marriage. And we met together for a period of time on a Saturday. And during that time, it was very clear that she was speaking her preferred communication styles to him, which were not his preferred communication styles. He was speaking his preferred communication styles to her, which weren't her preferred, and they were constantly missing, and at best, they were miscommunicating. At worst, they were in actual conflict and both avoiding one another. So when we were able...
Silence, probably.
Oh, yeah. Well, the silence that you can feel, right?
Yeah, it's called the punishment.
I'm being quiet at you.
Yeah.
So after we were able to share just a few things to get them on the same page of understanding, and more important than understanding, validating it, with scores, validating it with an assessment that has been psychologically put together. It is, in fact, it has a 98% reporting accuracy. That's how incredible this instrument is.
Wow.
So when they were able to grasp that and say, you know what, this is who you are. This is who you've been since I've met you, and you're not going to change, are you? And then to bring them onto a page of not giving up who they were, but yielding and working together, just as if they were an employee working on the same floor or something. And in that short time together, they made some decisions because they were both willing to grow. They wrote me testimonials that I would love to share with your viewers.
Oh, we'll want that. We'll want to share that. I promise my viewers we'll have that on our webpage with you. Yes, that'd be beautiful.
Oh my gosh. And I met with them subsequently too, and they feel like they are back to honeymoon level again because of understanding and choosing to just make a few shifts to give up my rights to serve the other person. And when two people do that, when any group does that, success is not far around the corner.
You said something that really kind of lightened another thought process. So often we get to a place where we love this person, but we want to change them. Or we hire somebody and we want to change them. And that's a failure waiting to happen if it's not already happening. I mean, it's a tragedy because DNA makeups are pretty much there. You can change character a little bit and you can work on habits, but you know, as many of the great teachers of character talk about, it just isn't easy or possible to change somebody. I mean, God can change us all from the inside, but the reality is a husband or wife trying to change each other becomes really a dangerous situation, or an employer. So the reality is what you've said is that you've taken them out of that picture of, and I'm just repeating back what I think I heard so the audience can kind of play that listening ear that I was listening to you speak. But you're taking out of the perspective of trying to change somebody, but again, to understand them and to allow that understanding to come to a place where you open communication and enjoy the differences at that point.
Jeffrey, the way I would put that is that when we're dating, since we're talking about marriages, when we're dating, in my world of communication with the 7 communication styles, and I think one of the things that I've failed to mention is that we don't just speak 1 or 2 or 3 of these 7 communication styles, that you and me and every person that we meet is a combination, a unique combination of all 7 of the communication styles, but we speak them from strength to weakness. So in that, though, when we're dating, we get very multilingual, right? We speak whatever language we need to speak to capture the love of our life. Yeah. And then when we get married or when we're together for a period of time, we kind of settle back down into who we really are. And then the person feels deceived, or they feel tricked, or they feel lied to. But it wasn't that at all. It is that we stopped doing the things that we did when we were first in love. And one of the things that I help couples realize is that they didn't go away. They just are settling now. And you can't sustain speaking 7 communication styles all day long. So we settle into our preferred. And then when we have different descending order of languages, that's where the conflict comes. So one of the beautiful things that I get to remind couples of is I remind them to remember. Go back and remember what was attracting to you. Why were you attracted to them? And well, I loved their patience. I loved their calmness. And now patience and calmness drives them up the wall. So when they remember, and they have then facts and statistics that validate that, no, this person didn't change on me. I changed the way I view them. And then when we get them to remember and start doing those things that they did in the beginning, love absolutely is like fresh wind on embers. It just begins to flourish again into a roaring fire, has been my experience.
What a beautiful picture you just painted. Listen, to the audience that is listening, we're going to spend another minute or 2, but I want you to know that we're going to go into part 2. So you'll have that part 2 with regards to the next things I'd like to talk to you about, of course, is relating to an employee or employer, because I think that's very important communication. But before that, when a listening audience, that I work with so often, they hear someone like you who's an expert, a coach, you do this every day. The reality is they think they couldn't accomplish it. They wouldn't be able to get to that point. Your workbooks and the ease of how you transition the understanding of self and then how to communicate those 7 languages to communicate with others is really probably the best part of this whole program that you teach in communication languages, is the fact that it's easy enough once you understand those 7 languages, and they're not really complicated, and you can start to spot them in people just in an open conversation. Wow, there's a builder, there's whatever it might be of the 7 language. Give us the 7 languages to kind of list them so that people can have a picture of that in their mind.
Yeah, happy to. And it is simple. If anybody's ever watched Winnie the Pooh, you know what it means when you say Tigger. You have a caricature that pops up of bouncy, fun, enthusiastic, etc. And just like all the characters in Winnie the Pooh, once you learn a few things about the 7 communication styles, you can spot them as easily as it would be looking at a child's movie like that. So I told you there are 3 categories of the languages: kinetic, emotive, and cognitive. So in the kinetic category, there are 2 life languages, and those languages are called mover and doer. And you can just hear the action in those words themselves. Then in the emotive category, there are 2 communication styles called influencer and responder. And those tend to be the natural people-oriented communication styles.
Mm-hmm.
And the final category is the cognitive category. Mm-hmm. There are 3 languages, and they're called shaper, producer, and contemplator. Mm-hmm. And each of those, they're as different as night and day. And once you just learn a few things about them, it's very, very simple. Children come to workshops and start understanding it from the workshop forward. It's that simple, and yet it takes a little bit of work as well.
Yeah, it kind of needs to have a little bit of work, not far beyond what you described, because I even like the example of Tigger, because you give characteristics of each one of the languages. You give symbols to kind of reflect an icon relationship. So the program is really just incredible. For the listening audience, this is Carolyn Santos. She's a communication coach. She is amazing. She has a heart bigger than the world, and she wants to help the entire world, from everything from families, marriages, businesses, you name it, or just individuals that really need to get a grip on who they are and how to communicate with the world. On our page down below on our blog, you're going to be able to link to her webpage. You're going to be able to find out about this survey that is just incredible. I advocate each and every one of you taking this. It's inexpensive. It's life-changing. It is powerful. And I'm speaking from first person because I've taken it, and so is my family and my staff. And I've actually communicated that with business owners all over the country that are salon owners. We work with a tough business group that really are always working with clients that are always going through their challenges, as well as the staff that are going through their challenges and business challenges. And then we have to bring it home to our family and husbands and wives and kids. So Carolyn's going to be able to share a whole lot more in part 2. So I want you to stay tuned, and I want you to just remember this, that beauty begins within, but so does change. I'm Jeffrey Paul. I look forward to seeing you on part 2 of this wonderful, healthy communication workshop.